So our first presenter is Kris Peterson. He's a Utah DOT Project Development Director.
I'm excited to spend just a couple minutes with you and talk to you about Utah's pavement preservation culture. I'm going to do it a little bit less orthodox. I'm not going to have a formal PowerPoint. I'm just going to talk through our strategic direction and do that through our homepage. But first, I want to welcome you to Park City. This is exciting. Last time we hosted a multi-state meeting was in May, and we ordered up some snow and got snow in May for everybody that came from out of state. And I think tomorrow you're supposed to get a decent chunk of snow too, so have fun. If you want, go get some skins and put some skis on and go up to the top. There'll be several people. If you go over to the resorts, you'll see that they'll be hiking up tomorrow to go catch some of the fresh snow. So that's exciting. I'm glad that you could come here. It's going to get cold. The gentleman from Alaska was saying that it's colder here right now than it is in Anchorage. Is that what you said? I'm glad that we could order that up too for Kevin from Arizona, as he never gets to experience that. We want him to know what real cold is. So anyway, welcome to Utah. Pavement preservation is something that's really ingrained in what we do, and what we have found is that as we have a high quality pavement preservation program where we know the amount of money that we need to spend, and as we track it, manage it, then that opens up opportunities for us in other areas of the department to utilize funds that we don't need for pavement preservation. We're not just throwing money at the road, we're following the program that we have, and I'll talk to you a little bit how we manage that and how we do that. And then there are several folks from Utah that are here, and through the course of the next couple of days, if you have questions about that, you're welcome to ask them because they know a lot more about it than I do. It's been something that I've been involved in my entire career here at the department. So I'll talk to you a little bit about our strategic direction. Our vision is keeping Utah moving. Everything we do focuses around, our vision is keeping Utah moving, and everything that we do is all about keeping Utah moving. And if with a good pavement preservation program, that dials completely into that. We have what we call a roadmap, and our executive director, Carlos Braceras, has helped put together a roadmap for our department, our vision, our mission, giving us strategic goals. I'll drill into a little bit of these core values and some emphasis areas that we have, but we have a roadmap that we follow, and we're charged and we're focused on making sure that everything that we do falls within these guidelines. So our mission: innovating transportation solutions that strengthen Utah's economy and enhance our quality of life. That's what we try to focus on. If we spend too much money in any one area, any one focus area of our department, if you want to say that, that's an opportunity lost for one of the other ones. And so to strengthen our economy, to make our quality of life right, it is incumbent on us to have a well-managed program to be able to balance that. A little bit about Utah. We have 4 regions. We're a very decentralized organization. We do have central functions, but we also have the majority of our projects and our programs are delivered by the regions, and some of the folks that are here in the room are charged with delivering our pavement preservation program. We have nearly 50,000 public road miles. For some DOTs, these are small numbers, and for some DOTs, these are pretty normal. 1,600 employees, 1,800 bridges, $43 billion in assets. But we're fairly small as far as a DOT goes, with only 1,600 employees. We're going through a new process right now, trying to recalibrate how we pick projects. Historically, our projects were picked, and I'm talking mostly capacity projects. Our pavement preservation is driven by our model and the recommendations of our pavement program, pavement managers. All the rest of our projects, we're going through a reformation and working to recategorize our prioritization based on good health, better mobility, strong economy, and connected communities. And we are going to start now picking our projects and selecting those that are the highest priority based on those 4 categories. Those really come back to quality of life. And if you look at our mission is very much quality of life and strong economy. And if you look at those 4 focus areas, the vision, those 4 factors drive heavily into quality of life. And if you ask somebody what's really important, it depends on the time of the day, it depends on the community, it depends on the person, what quality of life really means. If you ask my wife what quality of life means, it's going to be different than for me. For me, I want a good, easy commute in and out. If you want to tie it to transportation, she wants to make sure that she can get to the soccer games before, without having to add extra time just-in-time delivery, if you want to call it that. That's how it usually works when we go to soccer games. That's what we focus on, and that's how we attempt to strengthen our quality of life. We have 3 strategic goals: 0 fatalities, optimize mobility, and preserve infrastructure. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about preserve infrastructure over the next couple of days, and so I want to drill into that. But first thing is, we always talk, and I really appreciated Kevin's, one of the first things he talked about is safety, right? Location of the bathrooms, that's always super important. But also in case we ever have to evacuate for any reason. Safety is our priority. It's number 1. You see it listed. They're listed side by side, but which one's the first one on the left? It's safety and 0 fatalities, and we take that very seriously. Everything we do, including pavement preservation, has a component of safety, and we can never forget that that's going to be our priority. We're grateful right now that our fatalities are trending lower than they have historically for the past about 20 years. So we're pleased, and we're cautiously optimistic that we're going to have a good year with fatalities, and we're going to meet our goals for reduction in fatalities. Well, let's talk pavement preservation. That's why we're here it's the RMWPPP, right?
Rocky Mountain West.
So I've memorized the acronym. I'm a good member of the DOT. I know the acronym, but I couldn't tell you what it means. Pavement preservation. This is a measure on how well we're meeting our preservation targets. So this isn't a condition of our asset, this 100% over here. This is a measure of how well we are taking care of our assets. And so we're tracking that. Now, that's a little bit misleading, and some of our legislators believe that when you see 100% there, that means we have too much money, because no federal or no state public entity, none of our assets should be 100%. That would be a misuse of taxpayer dollars. So we're working on readjusting this measure to accurately represent the condition of the asset so we can tell the story the way it needs to be told. But for those of you in this room, this is a really important matter of clarification. We believe, based on the targets that we've set, that we are managing our system appropriately. That's what 100% means, is that this is how well we are doing in taking care of our pavements. Now, this preserve infrastructure category makes up 4 different components. So pavements is just a portion of it. Structures is in there, so is signals and ATMS. So they each take a portion of this overall goal, and depending on how well each one of those asset managers are managing their asset, that all rolls up into one overall score. That's the 100% that you see right there. So talk a little bit about pavement. I talked about the fact that there's 4 regions, and you can see each one of these. I'm going to be talking statewide, but this is live data that's on our website. Everybody and anybody can get to it, totally transparent on how our condition of our pavements are. If you wanted to know any one specific region and how well they are doing in managing the program within their area, you could click on that region. It's a live data, and it'll sort and drill down into that information for you. But let's just talk statewide right now, okay? This chart is here for the accountants, all right? This is not for those of us who are trying to manage the pavement. This is here that shows basically there is not a risk that the Department of Transportation is not going to be able to take care of their payments. I don't like this chart because it gives an incorrect view of the status of our payments. So we track our payments based on 2 different categories: high volume and low volume. About 5 years ago, we did not have enough money to take care of our system. Now, we use what we call, and we talked about a culture of pavement preservation, we use a strategy called good roads cost less. And we firmly believe that if you take care of your pavements and you keep them in a good condition, it's going to be cheaper and easier to take care of those over the long term than if you let them go into a state of disrepair. Good roads cost less is very much ingrained. If you talk to almost anybody, you talk good roads cost less, they're going to know what you're talking about. And it's smart treatments, the right treatments at the right time in order to take care of those pavements. So 5 years ago, we didn't have enough money, so we stopped taking care of our low volume roads, and those roads in the rural counties that didn't get significant volume, over about 1,000 cars, ADT, and trucks. We just stopped taking care of those, and we relied solely on maintenance dollars to manage those roads. So they might get a chip, if the maintenance dollars could spread far enough, but we stopped any other kind of treatment on those. And they started to deteriorate, and we started to see that happen. But it was a conscious decision to say that we're going to take care of the portion of the asset that has the highest demand or the most required by our traveling public to have that. The legislature saw that, And they said, hold on a minute, those roads are important to us too. And so they passed the 5-cent gas tax and gave us an additional 40 million so that we could take care of those lower volume roads. We were able to tell them through stories like I'm going to go through today, or like I'm going through, how we did not have enough money to take care of those assets. So they gave us an additional 40 million. So we still have two different asset categories for pavement, high volume and low volume. Within the high volume, we have interstates, we have NHS, we have a non-NHS. So we have different types of facilities within the high volume, but we're using a method to talk about these assets with the public and with the legislature that they can understand. If you were to talk to them about a non-NHS or an NHS, they'd look at you. In fact, frankly, within the department, you'll get several who will look at you, go, I don't even know what you're talking about. High volume, we've set targets relative to the high volume roadways. We have an upper bound and a lower bound. So all of our pavements should not, it's not reasonable. These assets deteriorate over a significant period of time, 9, 8, 7, 6, 10 years, whichever that is. And so we have upper bounds. We believe that we shouldn't have any pavements on the high volume roadways that are in a poor condition. 95% of them need to be in above a poor condition, better than a poor condition. But we need to have at least 60% of those in a good condition. So you can kind of have some in between, and through the life of your asset, you'll see how that deteriorates and changes. We also predict out, we run models, and so right now our model is predicting out through 2023. If we have a current state of funding, the way we have today, what the asset will look like in 2023. That helps us know whether or not we're putting enough in or not enough funding towards our pavement preservation program. The funds that go into the pavement preservation program are very much dedicated to pavement. And as the regions deliver those projects, they have limits on how much they can spend on non-pavement assets as they deliver a project. 1% or 2% of their funds can go to non-pavement items unless it's a safety item to do whatever might just need to be there. Maybe they need to upgrade some signs, but they can only upgrade 1% of the project on a preservation project, or 2% of their budget can go towards signs or sidewalks or whatever that might be. So we're very restrictive on staying connected to the asset and managing the pavement. That's given us opportunity to take funds that we don't need. As we look at these models, then we can take those funds and we can use them on those other things, but we can make a conscious decision rather than just giving it to the project team and then they can do whatever they want with their funding. So that's where we sit with high volume. Our low volume condition is right here. So you'll see that about 5 years ago is when we got the infusion of the additional gas tax, and you can see, if you come back to 2014, what that has done for that system. What we're looking at now is, do we need to spend that entire 40 million on the low volume roads, or are we going to be able to pull some of that back and use that on other portions of our system instead of exclusively on the low volume roads? So that's part of our pavement preservation program. So I have reached the limit of my time, but let me tell you something that we're toying with a little bit. It's called a sustainability index. With our pavement dollars, we can use those dollars on preservation projects, on rehab projects, or these are federal dollars almost exclusively in our program. This is how we use our federal program for the most part. Or we have an option to take some of those out and do some reconstructs, to do some widenings. Based on how our program is working, we can decide whether or not we can pull a little bit away to do those. But the health of the program, if we take too much, is our program going to be sustainable? And so we're trying to roll this index to try and help each of the regions know that as they make decisions regarding the program that we've recommended, if they start going too far away from what the recommendations were, is that going to be sustainable for them on the long term? The hard part is, this is, and you guys know it, this is every decision you make, you see the results of it in about 5 or 6 years, and so it's really hard to turn the ship. And you want to be really careful as you're making funding adjustments, because you might make a decision today that you won't see till 5 years, and then it's really hard to get back. So that's what we do in Utah. That's how we go through it. It's a very high level view. If you want to talk to any of the folks that are here, they'll give you a lot more detail on the minutiae, on the specifics of how we do our pavement management. But regardless, I want to welcome you to Utah. Have a great time while you're here. Make sure you get downtown. It's a great environment. It's a fun environment, so make sure you sneak up there. Probably shouldn't be riding the bikes or the scooters tomorrow. If you do, wear a helmet. That's my safety briefing. It's going to be a little chilly, though, so maybe an Uber or a Lyft or transit in Park City is free. So if you want to go jump on a bus and ride transit, I think there's a transit line that runs through here that will take you downtown. I'm sure the hotel will help you with that. But with that, I will turn the time back to Kevin, and he'll introduce who's next.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.